Have you ever had a boss so petty they were threatened by office furniture? Today, we're diving into a top-voted Reddit story about the most ridiculous workplace power struggle you've ever heard of. So grab your popcorn and let's start reading. The moving boxes were stacked like cardboard towers in my mother's garage, and somewhere between the chaos of selling one house and waiting for another, I made a decision that would spark the pettiest office war of my career. My Herman Miller Aeron chair, a beautiful ergonomic masterpiece I'd scored secondhand for a fraction of its retail price, was taking up precious real estate in Mom's already cramped living room. So I did what seemed logical. I brought it to work. The office chairs at our mid-sized tech company were the definition of functional. Gray fabric, questionable lumbar support, and springs that had given up hope sometime during the previous decade. My Aeron, with its sleek mesh design and pristine engineering, stood out like a luxury car in a parking lot full of beat-up sedans. For the first few days, it was perfect. I'd arrive at 8 a.m. sharp, beating traffic was my religion, and settle into my ergonomic throne while the office slowly came to life around me. The open floor plan meant everyone could see everyone, which usually bred the kind of office politics I tried to avoid. But my chair was just there, doing its job, supporting my back through long coding sessions. Then I started noticing something odd. Every morning when I walked in, my chair would be sitting in the conference room. Not a big deal. People borrowed chairs for meetings all the time. I'd simply wheel it back to my desk and get on with my day. The conference room chair migration became as routine as my morning coffee. But then the pattern shifted. One Tuesday morning, I found my chair conspicuously absent from the conference room. I scanned the open office space and spotted it immediately, parked behind the CEO's desk like it belonged there. Our CEO, Marcus, was the kind of man who arrived fashionably late, usually around noon, and stayed well into the evening, long after most of the staff had fled for home. He managed about 120 employees with the kind of hands-off leadership style that meant I'd spoken to him maybe 3 times in 2 years. But apparently he'd developed an opinion about my seating arrangements. I walked over and casually reclaimed my chair. Marcus shot me a look that could have frozen coffee, but said nothing. I wheeled my chair back to my desk, settled in, and pretended not to notice the tension crackling across the office. The next morning, same story. Chair at his desk. I retrieved it. He glared. The morning after that, chair at his desk again. It became a silent battle of wills, played out in full view of our co-workers. I'd arrive early, spot my chair in enemy territory, and stage a quiet rescue mission. He'd arrive at noon to find his borrowed throne missing, shoot daggers at me across the room, and apparently stew about it until the next opportunity to commandeer my property. The whole thing was ridiculous, but I wasn't about to back down. It was my chair, brought from my home, during a temporary housing situation that HR had already approved. If he wanted better furniture, he could expense it like any other business owner. The silent war might have continued indefinitely, but Marcus made a tactical error. He involved his assistant. Sarah was genuinely one of the kindest people in the office, mid-40s, eternally patient, and blessed with the superhuman ability to manage Marcus's chaotic schedule and fragile ego. She approached my desk on a Thursday afternoon, wringing her hands like she was about to deliver terrible news. "Hey," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Can I talk to you about something? It's a bit awkward." I minimized my code editor and gave her my full attention. "Sure, what's up?" She glanced toward Marcus's empty desk, then back at me. "It's about your chair. Marcus mentioned that he doesn't think it's appropriate that you have a nicer chair than he does. He's worried people might think your desk belongs to the CEO. I blinked at her, processing what had to be one of the most absurd complaints in corporate history. He's worried about the optics of my chair? I know, Sarah said quickly, her cheeks flushing. It's just, he's been asking me to talk to you about it, and it's putting me in a really uncomfortable position. Every morning it's this whole thing, and I feel terrible being the messenger. The genuine distress in her voice hit me harder than any of Marcus's dirty looks. Sarah didn't deserve to be caught in the middle of this ridiculous power play. You know what? I said, keeping my voice calm and professional. I completely understand. You shouldn't have to deal with this. I'll take care of it. Relief flooded her face. Really? Thank you so much. I was dreading this conversation. Don't worry about it. Consider it handled. That afternoon during my lunch break, I walked out to the parking lot and popped the trunk of my car. I carefully maneuvered my Herman Miller Aeron into the back, where it fit with just enough room to spare. Then I went back inside and claimed one of the standard-issue gray chairs from the supply closet. The next morning, Sarah appeared at my desk with a confused expression. "Where's your chair?" she asked, looking around like it might be hiding somewhere. I looked up from my monitor with the most innocent expression I could muster. "Oh, I took it to my car. Since it wasn't appropriate for me to have a nicer chair than Marcus, I figured this was the best solution." Her mouth fell open slightly. "Your car?" "Yeah, it's in the trunk. Seemed like the right thing to do." She stood there for a moment, clearly processing the implications of my solution, then hurried back toward Marcus's office without another word. Here's the thing about our office parking lot. It was small and prime real estate was first come, first served. Since I arrived at 8 a.m. religiously, I always snagged one of the spots right next to the main entrance, which meant that every single employee, including Marcus, had to walk directly past my car to get to the building. And there, visible through my rear window like some kind of bizarre trophy, sat my beautiful Herman Miller Aeron chair. For the next 3 weeks, until my new house was finally ready, that chair became the talk of the office. People would slow down as they passed my car, peer through the window, and shake their heads in amazement. New employees were given the full story by veteran staff members. The break room buzzed with updates about the chair situation. "Did you see it still there? I can't believe he actually put it in his car. Wait, why is there a chair in his car?" And I told everyone who asked the complete, honest truth. Marcus didn't think it was appropriate for me to have a nicer chair than him, so I moved it to my car. The beauty of the whole situation was its simplicity. I hadn't been insubordinate, I hadn't caused a scene, I hadn't filed a complaint with HR or started any kind of formal dispute. I had simply, literally done exactly what was requested. Removed the chair from the office because it was deemed inappropriate. Marcus, for his part, never approached me directly about it. His assistant never brought it up again. He'd walk past my car every day at noon, presumably seeing the chair through the rear window, but his cowardly management style meant he'd rather endure weeks of office gossip than have an actual conversation about the situation. The whole experience taught me something valuable about workplace dynamics and petty power plays. Sometimes the best response to unreasonable demands isn't confrontation or compliance. It's malicious compliance wrapped in perfect politeness. When I finally moved into my new house and took the chair home where it belonged, I felt a strange sense of victory. Not because I'd won some childish battle, but because I'd managed to expose the absurdity of the situation while maintaining my integrity. To this day, I'm absolutely certain that Marcus expected me to simply surrender my chair, to accept his bizarre logic and hand over my personal property to massage his fragile ego. Instead, he got 3 weeks of walking past a constant reminder that his leadership style was as uncomfortable as the standard issue office chairs he thought were good enough for everyone else. Sometimes the best revenge is just giving people exactly what they ask for. And that's the whole story of today. Honestly, this was pure genius level malicious compliance. Our protagonist handled this with the grace of a Ravenclaw and the cunning of a Slytherin. I'm giving this a solid 2 out of 10 Slytherins. Just enough mischief to make a point, but with the moral high ground intact. Definitely not the jerk here. What do you think? Drop your verdict in the comments. That's all for today's story. Hope you enjoyed the ride. If you did, give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to help me reach my first 1,000 subscribers. It really means a lot. And hey, if you're still craving more drama, mystery, or chaos, check out the next story right here on the screen. See you in the next one.